I think now we do Mad Lions, because this is another team that I will say we were both totally off on this one, GrabbZ. I actually had them as maybe like a bottom end of the playoff groups, like rather, both like the bad teams, but not like relevant to be a contender. And like, I think the joke is, I'm not exaggerating, the only player I actually thought would be this good was El Yoya. I thought maybe Nisqy had his better split last split. Like, first of all, I think Nisqy's having a fucking amazing split. That's mad, really good games. He's just bounced back completely from whatever happened at Worlds and playoffs. He looks great. And then the joke is everyone else looks better than I thought. Like, I didn't even know who the fuck this Chasey guy was, man. I don't watch fucking smaller leagues like that. He's having some games again. What the fucking import Korean top lane is going to do? He's way better than I thought. And then the joke is, on paper, this is why every now and then, Dom, you'll be wrong even if you do the theory craft. Even though, like, if you do the XL theory craft, it doesn't really make much sense in some ways stylistically. But the joke is this bot lane should be the worst stylistic match ever. And it's actually good. Like, the joke now is they're not a liability. They don't even lose lane. And now Hylissang actually does stuff again. Like, almost everything's worked out. Like that. I don't know if, put it this way, the coaching staff can't be lucky. Like, they've just done it too many times now. They just must be really good.
I mean, I 100% agree. So this is the one thing that I've been throwing out to people, because now, like, I've started like betting on games a little bit. Like, I'm getting more into like the stat side of things. Like, I don't normally consider it too much, but I like to just be aware of like general stats, like kills per game, like deaths per game. It's crazy to me that Mad Lions with that bot lane, and I've tweeted this out and I've said it on different shows, but I just wanted to get your take on this, Thorin, and GrabbZ if you haven't heard it. They average one less death than any other team in the league. They have the least deaths in the league with a Carzzy Hylissang bot lane. What is your interpretation of that? Like, doesn't that just like
here's the obvious joke? I'll make the obvious joke. You know that famous scenario, you'll know this, where you drop a piece of toast and it always flips onto the bloody side with the butter, right? Yep. That's Carzzy. But then you know also how if a cat falls out of a window, it always lands on its feet, doesn't it? That used to be the good Hylissang. So when Hylissang's playing well and you put him with Carzzy, it's like putting the piece of toast with the butter up on the back of a cat and chucking it out a window. It'll just never hit the ground. It'll keep flipping like that. It'll just infinitely create energy. And so there's your analogy. If I knew more about League, I'd probably tie it in there, but it wasn't bad. There you go. You take it from there. I've done my part, GrabbZ.
I just want to say, I think just how players interact, this is the best built roster in the LEC. Because, and not in terms of like players.
No, relative to how they work together. Yeah.
Because if any of these five says there's a fight we could take, all four will say, let's go. There's no thought behind it, just let me go.
Oh, that's the other thing about this bot lane, dude. They always follow up. They just go straight in together.
Exactly. And this is something that in the past, Matt meant really good as well. And this is also just because the title was mentioned, I undervalued Kaiser a bit, and I thought this was a split like he has to show. Because Mad was a team that back then when, like we, especially 2021 and 2022 when they won, they were just good at team fighting coming back, right? Because every team from the head is like cautious, like this fighters, no, they just go. They have Rajcula and Kaiser, they fly in, they fight. I have the same feeling here that they're just so on the same page. I think though it shows as well, like they can't for the life of them end the game cleanly. I feel like. If the opponent just doesn't throw themselves at them, but you can't also win against them cleanly. Like the games will always be messy because they make it so hard on every step of the way.
Yep. I mean, what I would say there is, I mean, I think XL is kind of challenging them. Like pretty much whenever a fight starts, they all just run away. Isn't that the same thing? Like that's pretty good team identity.
I mean, it could be good if you win games like this, right? But
yep. But they're drafting like Draven and Nautilus and then trying to do that, so it's a little bit anti-synergy there.
Yeah, but it's really crazy that like Carzzy and Hilly don't just perma-die. Also, compared to Carzzy, I think like one of his biggest issues was mid-game, where he likes mid-wave, he just dies normally.
Yes.
Like back then, there was like our scouting report: if you don't know what to do, go mid against Carzzy, he will die to you. And I don't remember him dying that much this split, at least in that regard.
Oh, he's dying. He's not dying at all, really. Like he's really just not dying. Like if you look up his stats, it's actually crazy. Like this guy is insanely consistent currently.
So credit to them, they're playing better than I thought. And they're also not relying as much as I thought on the whole Nisqy dropping waves and roaming. I think that's really important for them. I thought if this team would be bad, it's because they just play the early game. Nisqy has to drop waves, be 20 seconds behind, and they go for weird dives. But no, like he can also play the Victor and just farm up, and the team is still functional. So
I think the coolest thing about this squad now that they actually are just legit good, like if you watch them week to week, you can't hate on them. They're not winning these games by accident, like you say. They've actually got like a pretty good style. The cool thing to me is this: we were never ever supposed to be able to see this because El Yoyo was supposed to be gone. He's supposed to be off in Fnatic or something or something. So like the joke is, if you took that piece out, it'd probably still be a decent team, but they wouldn't be able to do this. Like because they managed to just keep that. I was really worried that like, oh, what if he's trapped in like an average team now? Is more of a no. I think he looks awesome, and in fact, that team match also. This is why I know the coaching staff must be killing it. They also just look like they have, like you're saying, they have an amazing fucking like vibe in the team as well. Like everyone looks like they're just loving fucking playing League of Legends.
That's always really Mad's vibe. I feel like that's actually the superpower of Mad. When you watch all the players, like even a player could be having a horrible time in Mad, but it never actually looks like. It's like it's like Mac is the father that has unconditional love. It's like, you know what, man? Like, don't worry about it. Like we appreciate you anyway. Whereas GrabbZ has the resting bitch face where you come back and you're like, I'm gonna get
good. Mac is the opposite of me. Like whenever I'm mad, he's just happy. And whenever I should be happy, I'm mad. Whenever he should be mad, he's happy.
Exactly. The only problem is they are the most inappropriately named team as a result.
The Mad Lions. Okay, true.
Yeah. Just be called like Happy-Go-Lucky Lions. It's a shit name, but you know.
The Glad Lions. Fuck it, Glad Lions. There it is.
There you go.
I mean, they're also lucky that they have players who don't care about scrims, right? Because I know traditional Mad scrims against them are always, I don't know. It's
the joke is, I've heard it's only in the scrims now that they do still the Kazi and the Hillisack shit where it's just like there's a million fucking deaths one way or the other.
So I think then also, like, for example, in that environment, I would go crazy, but if Mac can handle it, because I remember, like, in G2 back then, we were just chatting during the games, just going low in our chair, watching the games, the scrims like this at some point.
Okay.
Like, what are you going to talk about? No idea, bro. Just go next. Yeah, okay. That's how the scrims against Mad Lions for, like, 2 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, credit to them.
I'm not going to say GrabbZ was doing it on easy mode in G2, but they were just sitting back in their chairs, Tom, going, all right, next. Probably fuck around and win MSI or something. Yeah,
I mean, if you're 4 kills per minute in 20 minutes, then there's not much to talk about again.
Fair enough. True. There is, yeah. Indeed. Let's do the obvious one that like people are going to think is going to be drama, but it's probably not going to be, which is G2. Now, look, GrabbZ already sort of seeded this by complimenting Dylan Falco earlier, so there's obviously no fucking drama there or whatever. But I have to say as well, this is actually the team. Last year, people were impressed that, you know, they got like the rookies in. So this is the team that for me, I always thought Dylan Falco was good. I just thought he needed like a few more years to get his experience. But mate, he has to be one of the best coaches in LEC. Look at all the different players he's worked with. Look how he works with youngsters. His rookies just instantly hit the ground running. It's really impressive to me. What do you think, GrabbZ?
Oh, for sure. And also, I think a good coach team also shows an early game. And I think G2 consistently has a really good early game plan. Like every game they play, it feels like they have talked before the game, or like with the champs they have. And they have a clear indication of should they innovate level 3, should they do something for level 4, should they play defensively, aggressively, where should we go through? Like there's a clear plan, it feels like. And I credit that to him, right? So I think for sure he's doing like a really, really good job. Besides the last draft, this was like kind of like a GrabbZ draft in G2.
That's a player draft. The players just fully, you know that every single player. Oh, Kindred looks good here. Oh, pick Karma. We could flex it. Like it was just some bullshit.
Exactly.
I think the main criticism against Dylan Falco is that he doesn't seem like the type of guy that's like a master like motivator if the players are not focused. But I think that if G2 is like aware of this, they got perfect players to have a coach like that because they're all self-motivated. I think that's
Roma as well, by the way, in background staff who's PS Smurfing. Roma was the one who was in Unicorns, like the hype guy.
Yes, the guy who dressed up with all the pin. He's the GM now.
He's also like a really lots of empathy and like really good to like talk to players as well. Like the entire background staff of G2 is doing good stuff.
Yes, I will say on that guy, by the way, if people don't know, because he is one of the people that, for obvious reasons, I used to like razz on a little bit and make fun of him when he was. Because I just thought he just looked like he's a mad narcissist. I thought, is this just some guy who only cares about the cameras? No, there is that angle, but I will say he's also Frenchy. He's like just a flamboyant guy. But actually, if you do talk to him behind that, he actually can be a serious, quite like thoughtful person, like GrabbZ. So there's more than meets the eye on that one, I will say.
As long as they stop doing their Star Guardian cosplays on stage, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Bro, I'm so happy that we're out of the era of people fucking writing shit on their forehead. Like
that's so dumb with it.
On stage,
you over René. It's like you lose anyway if you do that, mate. You lose anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was so fucking hard to watch for me because like I'm not like one of the biggest sticklers where I'm like players should show up to like the games in suits and be super serious all the time. But like, do we really need to be fucking writing shit on Sharpie on our foreheads before every single game? Like,
dude, that just makes it. I know that's like some cam girl shit. Like, look, guys, I'll write anything you want on my head. Like, fucking hell, this is supposed to be one of the best leagues in the world. They want someone's parents walking like this. I thought it was a professional thing. Like,
it was so funny. Like, go check the VOD today when they had the Super Star Guardian cosplays. You can see the camera pan, and you see Jankos on stage. You can just see his eyes being empty, like, get me out of here.
Oh, of course.
Because you could see him being like.
That was when he realized that's when he realized he was getting old in the industry. He was just like, what has this become? What has this become? I know. He was not an old Polish jungler just seeing his future in his past all at 1,000 yards there. Thing is, though, Dom, like what he says there, which ties into the narrative, that is the thing that I'm most impressed with. Even though at the beginning of the split, everyone obviously just looked at the kills and they were like, this guy is fucking busted. They made out like he was like Bo. The joke is, like, he's good, but I do think this team has done, this must be the dream to walk into as a rookie. Like he said, it does look like they script the players at the beginning of the game. He's just, if he's in the right spaces, he's going to benefit. Because I have to say, not only did Bo gap him, but Elyoya also was like, listen, mate, there's levels to this game, man. You just understand. You're not there yet. Like you're in a good team, but there's levels to this game of jungle.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it when they fall behind. When G2 falls behind, you don't see Yike just pulling them out of it, which is one thing that I thought Jankos was actually pretty good at. Like he knew how to be like, there's only one way we lose this game, or there's only one way we win this game. We lose if we do anything else. I'm gonna like sack all my fucking camps, run here, make this play, or I have to cover this dive. Like he was good at just doing the game-winning play. I feel like Yike is not aware of like what it takes to bring a team back when the lanes are not going amazingly. There was like one play he had recently through lane where I felt like that kind of got them back into one of the games they were losing. I think was it against Koi? I forget which team it was. It was earlier this week, but besides for that, I haven't seen him really be able to figure it out, which is fine. I mean, he's a rookie, right? Like you that's something that you develop over time. Like Jankos was never good at that when he was a rookie either, right? True. Like it just is what it is. But that's the part that you want to see growth on if you're going to start calling him like the best jungler in LEC and stuff like that.
No, I'm with you. Like on that one, I would just say this: like Jankos at this point in time, he's just a master at his fucking craft of juggling. Like you say, he reads the game so well. Like it's actually why I was going to bring this up later on, but fuck it, let's do it now. Because I've sort of dropped all the clues, Dom, through the weeks about Jankos and what could happen. So I'm just going to say it right now. What people haven't put together is this detail, Dom. Do you remember in the offseason, right at the beginning of the offseason, there was that big drama where they were supposed to like buy fucking Elyoya to G2 for like 1 million or something, or 1.1, and then like Mad Lions was saying no, and then Jankos was going to go elsewhere. And at the time, the buyout for Jankos was crazy. It was like 1.x million. Like put anything in the X, that's crazy anyway, right? But you think it's Jankos, right? What I've heard is this, Dom, if you put it all together, and this is why it's actually brutal, because I think right now Jankos is still really good in his team, which isn't always winning. He is still able to do a lot of these things, cover the map, cover for a player, find the right player to maybe match someone. I think it's so sad because I'll say it like this. I've known a lot of the behind the scenes of some of the other G2 ones. I know Carlos and some of the other people. So sometimes it wasn't always G2 being the dick. They weren't always the one trying to sell to the bad team or limit who you could go to. Sometimes it was just like the other team came like, yeah, can we have this really like top player that's won all the shit? Yeah, sure. There's 250k. It's like, what's more than that, bro? Sometimes it was like that. And then sometimes the other team was pretending like, he's just trapping them. You won't let him out. This one right now, Dom, I'm going to say it right now. G2 fucked Jankos in this offseason because I've heard that they kept that beginning part of the crazy buyout. They made it sound like that was the ultimatum. Like, unless you can meet this, like, and even the minimum I've heard was like a big buyout. Unless you can meet that, we're just not budging. And they made it seem to all these teams like essentially you can't afford him. And then here's my problem. Like I said last week or whatever it was, like now I've heard the buyout was super low 6 figures. And I've heard even what he went for was way lower than what the original asking price was. So I'm sorry, I've got to say in that scenario, bear in mind, G2 wants to make money in theory. The one thing I always said about the other deals, go look it up, the Wonder deal, the records, they did get their money. They actually did get the money that roughly they were asking for. So you can at least justify like that. Well, it's business, bro. You know, I had to get the money for make up for him, buy new play. No. In this one, they got less money. And as far as I can tell, Dom, I think they just did it for real to put him on a shit team. I think they were already going to let him go, based on what I've heard, to teams like Heretics, fucking BDS. I mean, I know now they're good, but at the time, no one thought they were good. SK. I think they only wanted them to go to a bottom team. I don't think they wanted to let him go to a Fnatic, a top team, though. I actually think they fucked him. And I'll tie this into what I saw Reckless say on stream, even though he meant it jokingly. Like, you know, why did they sort of like crown Reckless when he came back? It's like, bro, you know, I'm like really good as well. Like, how much does fucking Jankos won all these years? Like, what are we doing? Yeah, Reckless won in 2018, for fuck's sake. Like, I do think in a mad way, everyone's like disrespected Jankos this offseason.
Oh, definitely. And it's so sad to see how he has to play in Heretics. He can have the best game ever. Like, if you look at that
the
fucking
game, man.
The Juani game was just insane. He gives Evie everything on a silver platter. Like, here's 3 kills. Like, you're ahead. Like, we've got first Herald, first Drake. What more do you want from a fucking jungler? What else could you want if you were laning from a jungler. Like that feels better to play with than anything else. It's not like Jankos was coming, but he was taking all the kills and the resources were on him. He gave the kills to everyone else. He made sure everyone was in stable positions, and they couldn't fucking win the game anyway. Like it's such a sad use of Jankos' talents.
Yes, because put it this way. Oh, sorry. No, maybe you were going to say the same thing. Every time I watch him play now, I think, bro, imagine he's on. Look, Excel would be bad anyway, but they might be better. Fnatic's the obvious one. Imagine if he was on that team, it'd be a totally different squad.
Yeah, all those players, like that's the type of player. Well, I don't think he would ever play on the team with Reckless. You can even hear when he's talking about like the Fnatic thing, like he's trying to keep it civil, but you can tell that he just didn't like play with Reckless. And everyone behind the scenes know that like the main thing was that Caps and Jankos did not want to play with Reckless in G2 going into the next year. So it is what it is. Like he's just good when he's better when he plays around good laners. If you're a good laner, if you're a top tier laner and somebody just hand feeds you 3 kills, game's over. You just won the whole fucking game alone. Yes. Like you're up thousands of gold. You get turrets. You rotate. You're first on every play. It's so easy to play like that, and his laners are just not able to use the resources that he gives them.
I'll throw this in as well, just a provocative statement, and GrabbZ can take it. I also think, for real, the reason why the Fnatic one would have been fun, I think he's one of the only people who might be able to sort of like fucking protect Humanoid essentially from himself. Like he actually might be able to sort of shadow him, GrabbZ, and sort of like know when he's going to fucking go in stupidly or like. I think he's the only one I think could save him, because at the moment Humanoid just looks like a lost cause. What do you think of this Jankos angle though? What do you think of him currently then?
I mean, he is playing really, really good. As Tom said, like not waste of talent, that sounds a bit too harsh, but the teammates he has don't let him be the player he can be, and even in that environment he's still shining. So that's sad for him. Without confirming or denying the numbers he mentioned, of course, because obvious reasons, just to put in context for fans, because I don't think they know it, the number that allegedly has been asked for is more than half of the functional budget for some teams of the entire year, including Academy. So basically, you're telling the teams in the league, you can have Jankos, but you have to pay 60% of the entire budget of your entire operation of League of Legends for him only. Which means basically they can't get other players, right? So no team can actually afford it. It's not about, because we talk about often teams that are ambitious, right? But it's still a business. These numbers are not normal. Like they are not feasible in the current structure of the league. And G2 knows it.
Yes.
So no team can go for him, because they would completely fuck the entire operations.
To me, those numbers only made sense if they were selling to LCS. Then you could maybe get that,
or LPL if Chinese team wants it, right?
Yes.
But so we don't just talk about the number; it's important to talk about it in the context of the league and the health of the league, right? So even if the team wants to win, still every shareholder would say, "No, you're not doing this because it's way too expensive. There's no way this is worth it." So that's why it's so bad, because G2 should know this, because they're also in the league, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you could. I mean, Jankos even confirmed this like on his stream. He's like, I think it's like really hard for me to like find teams, like, like I mean, he was just giving all the hints to tell you that this is the situation, that the reason why it's hard for him to find teams is not because he's a fucking bad player. He's the GOAT EU jungler by far. Yeah. No one's even close. The reason it's hard for him to find teams is because he just has, the one of those huge buyouts, which sucks for him. Definitely sucks. Yeah.
One thing I will say, though, just last thing on G2 from me, is just this. What I love is that at their hearts, no matter how good they are, when they're at their peak, Hylissang and Mickey X, even at their peak, they are just like that old, like, that Bible verse that's like, God giveth and God taketh away. That is, Mickey X will always be that guy, mate, because even though he's had some mad Smurf games, he still has those games like this week where it's just like, you know what? I'm sending it. Like, it's going out like that. You're like, oh, what the fuck? Like that Talia game's like, what are you even doing? You know what I mean? Like,
even the Heimer game where he got praised, but he was level 5 at 40 minutes in, like, that's not a good way to play the game, my bro. And he knows it as well, but I'm biased, of course, right? I played against Hilly with Mickey for like 4 years, and it was the most player games of the entire split. But these are the players you need to win. Yes. Also, especially if you want to win the World Championship or be good there, you need a player like Mickey as support. You can't just have any player who happens to not end. That doesn't cut it. And
by the way,
especially saying that like champs like Rakan and Pyke, where both of them are really, really good, and the pressure, like the same we talked about pressure and Bo, they do the same thing on Rakan. Like playing against Hilly Rakan is the most stressful thing you can have on stage. It's so super, super hard, it not even matter. So if they would shift, they get even better, those two.
Yes. One thing I would say, though, is this, which is, I thought a very interesting thing Perk said when I did my reflections of the offseason with him was, right, what people don't know about Mickey X, I knew this from, like, DMing him in the past, but he actually gets away with seeming like the most innocent guy in all those interviews and streams. Like, oh, hey guys, Perks is doing pretty well. Like, he seems just he's mad arrogant, but in a good way. Like, he knows absolutely how good he is, and he is the guy who's like, give me this shit, and I'm going in.
He's also a super like funny motherfucker. He's like a very like sarcastic, like just hilarious guy.
What do you say, GrabbZ?
Oh no, all of the roster back then is the same. Like publicly, maybe like, oh, they're fine, and then the camera's off. They're so fucking dog shit. Why am I saying this?
Okay, there you go.
So it was always fun.
No, the joke is, here's my joke, right? That's how you know G2 had actually ascended and you guys were like beyond even the West, because you guys started doing what all the top Asian teams do. You know, whenever Worlds comes, they're all like, you know what? Let's all just have a lie. I think all these Western players are pretty good, and that Western top lane, he's not bad actually. I think actually maybe Reckless is as good as us. Like, they just always do. They always do that to condescend to fans, because idiot fans like, delicious. Oh, that's Bjergsen as good as Fake Crazy. Oh, and then they're laughing at you when the fucking camera goes off, guys. They don't really believe that shit. They just think like, may as well just get some free fans. There's no downside, is there? It's not a lie. Exactly. So even G2 was doing that apparently. Like, yeah, no, we respect the rest of the league, and you know, it's going to be a hard game against Schalke this week. You know, like, who gives a shit? Exactly. It's like, bro, we won MSI. Who gives a shit? Fuck you.
Kinda. No, it wasn't that bad. Like, we weren't disrespectful towards opponents, but at the same time, you wouldn't praise them either, right? Yes. But you don't broadcast to say, oh, they're playing better now. It's impressive. They're just another team, which is fine.
And by the way, you know, obviously, because everyone was bigging up fucking Yakos, he was on the cast this week, blah, blah, blah. Like, Pointer, what did you think, you moron? He has really good English. He streamed. And like I said, he's a fucking genius of his role. Or you thought he wasn't going to know what's going on. That was obvious to me he was going to be good. But what it reminded me of, because I saw someone linked it, is one of the reasons by the way, I'll tell you right now, the reason they have that limit of like 15 minutes on the cast, you don't do the whole game. Because you remember where Perks went on? And he was just doing something like, he's fucked up his flash. It's like, bro, we're live right now. Like, it's Riot Games. We're not like CSGO. So we're like, what are you doing? He's just like, calm it down. Like, come on.
The best thing about the Perks cast was that he just like hostaged the whole thing. And he's like, you are going to listen to me now talk about how dog shit Yuumi is. Get it out of the game. No one likes it. It ruins everything. Like, he just like literally just took the mic and just started going off
of them.
Like, I'm not giving back to LEC. Like, started making demands. He just became like the first esports terrorist, like on the broadcast and everything. It was just, it was insane to me. I loved it.
Oh, whatever. He earned it. Fair play. Right. Here's what we're doing. If you notice, I'm sort of bouncing between teams right now, right? This is one where GrabbZ, I feel like so much can be said, but this is a bad team right now. It's got to be Koi. Like, all I can say for Koi to start this off is this. You're just lucky fucking Fnatic and Excel exist, mate. Otherwise, you yourselves would have been like in a few of these games, like, you know, we don't think, I'm a bit peppy smell, like, monk ass. Like, mate, this team, like, it's like, the joke is, it's just that Excel's a worse version of them, so they get to go to the groups. Now, what's mad is, I will say as a last thing, I do think, bearing in mind some of the players, like, they probably are a team that'll probably actually not be that bad in, like, the BO3 format and using, like, proper drafts. So that'll maybe help, but it still hasn't looked good. Like, even their best games were just against the trash teams. You know what I mean? They never really had like a mega game that made you think this team. Their lineups never come together for me. Where are you at on this team, GrabbZ?
I think one thing I want to say is that for some reason the summer playoffs erased the entire 4 weeks before that, where Rogue looked really shaky. Rogue looked really bad going into playoffs. The entire style of Marang also back then did not work. And then suddenly, I mean, they had good playoffs to the surprise of everyone, I think. Like, no one had them on the list. And now suddenly this was like this most insane jungler in the LEC, and this team is winning every lane. And Rogue generally always relied on having scaling picks and still winning games, right? That was Rogue's style of drafting.
Yep.
And as soon as your players, for whatever reason, don't get to the same spot being ahead on the scaling draft, it's hard to adapt because you're used to being in that spot, right? So, like Larsen still on Azir, bot, I mean, of course, it's also the scaling range meta, right? It's not like they're doing something specific, but for one reason or another, it's just laning, I think. They're just not on the same spot they were before, so they can't take the same fights as before. But this is reminiscent of, I think, the later weeks in summer they had.
Oh, when they had the downturn, he means. Yeah, okay. What do you think, Dom? Where are you at? Here's the thing. Obviously, you know this. When you do as much content as work as we do, we don't have time to watch other people's shorts unless someone like links a clip. Essentially, I'm just talking to you for the first time in a week about these things. I've got to guess you still don't enjoy watching Koi play. Like, they're not really. There's nothing exciting, is there?
Yeah, there's nothing exciting. And then also, my biggest fear, I said this in week 1, my biggest fear was that they were going to turn Sagenda into just a bad version of Odo Omne, where they just start playing him on the Odo Omne champs. He's just on Gnar, he's on fucking Cassante, he's on Orin, Renekton, he's just weak side, and they're just a worse version of, like, it's just all the things that Sagenda is supposed to be really good at. The split pushing, playing these carries was just completely eliminated from his game, and it feels like this is now what we're seeing with Koi. I don't know if it was just desperation to make this, where they were like, this is a band-aid fix, so we make the next round, and then in the next round we're gonna like really go back to what we think is the strongest identity of you know our team with our 5 players right now. But yeah, we're just having they're playing the same way they did. They just have a player that's less suited for it. And then the thing that's strange to me is just how the bot lane is playing in lane, mainly from comp. Like when I look at them, they were really good at these champions before. I mean, Comp said he was sick this week, but I mean, even before he was sick, he was playing the same way. There was that fight versus G2 where everyone was like bigging up Hansama, and I've talked about this like multiple times now, but the fight where everyone's bigging up Hansama, like he dodged all the skill shots. It's like Comp didn't ult as Zeri in a fight.
It's mental, isn't it?
He forgot to ult, bro. Like that's the only explanation. He just forgot to ult in a team fight. Maybe he clicked it while he was CC'd and he thought it was on and it wasn't.
Right.
But like after, you can literally see like Trimby like grab him, like Comp just goes like, oh my god, and then like they have the realization afterwards. They're like, wait, my fucking ult is up. I didn't ult in the team fight. And
I mean, that game was over anyways, right? That game was lost at that point.
Yeah, but I feel like that just seeing that is just like, bro, where are you at right now?
Oh, fair.
To not notice that, because there was times within the fight where normally like if a lot of shit is popping off in like a small period of time, then I could see you forgetting for that period. But then there's like a small like break in the fight where there's like a small reset where there's people that are not jumping on him directly, where you think he'd be able to reorient himself and then be like, oh shit, I gotta like ult to kill the Kalista, but he just didn't do it. That was super strange to me to watch, because I think Comp is a good player, and this is his meta, right? Like this is a meta that he was really good in. He was probably like one of the best Lucians in NA. You know, his Zeri was really good. Range supports cater to Trimby's playstyle. He's probably one of the better range support players in NA. If we're struggling in this meta as Koi, when we jump back into the Nautilus, Leona, Rakan, like if that meta actually comes, if that ends up being the meta that we get in 13.3, I don't know how this team is going to be a top team. Like I don't see where their advantage comes over teams like Mad Lions that are outperforming you right now. And this is what you'd expect would be the worst meta for a team like that.
Yes, I have a take along those lines, actually, because I was going to say the same thing. If you look at the way the team's going, right, now that we know Sagenda isn't going to be like a carry top and they can't just play through him, right, that means they're back to the old formula, which is like Larson farms up, so he's just going to do that. He's just always going to be ahead in CS, get his picks, and then bot lane's supposed to be like the pressure lane in that scenario. Like you're supposed to have one of the best bot lanes in the league, and as GrabbZ says, you're not even winning lanes much. Like you're not even getting ahead. In this scenario, by the way, here's a terrible sign. Everyone's just giving this fucker Zeri. Like people in theory, if they'd have actually somehow won that game, would have been flaming G2 for like, what are they giving him that bot lane for? Like, now you see why. I'll bet in scrims the fucking probably play out this as well. Because here's the problem, right? Obviously, you know, I already got out my system. I hard flamed the fuck out of Sagenda on a past episode and basically told him, like, you ain't Odo Omne, you're never going to be. And quite frankly, you're a bust right now. But the actual knock-on of that is now you see that Comp's not that good. I don't think it's just that he was never that good. But I'll tell you this. I always say this about 2 players, right? It's actually not the player himself in his play and what he does that you want them for. Impact and fucking Odo Omne, if you are an ADC who likes to scale and play team fights, are your dream to play with. Odo Omne is going to be tanking all that shit, making space for you. Like, mate, when you take a player like that out of the mix, it just makes it's like an aura effect that some other players are just going to get weak. It's going to make their game harder. And quite frankly, Comp hasn't adjusted to it, because let's be real, the last few weeks, like Trimby actually started to get his shit together. Like the Ash game was fucking banging. He's had some good moments. Go on, GrabbZ.
Yeah, so here's the weird part about the whole, like, you're right, with Odo Omne and Impact, but they make space for being a tank, right? But the reason they put in Sagenda was you can also make space being a threat. Because if he's on the square and his Camilla played, Comp also would have more free time to hit because they have to deal with him, right? But they don't let them play that. But as Dom said, right, it's just the weird part. I just checked because I don't want to talk out my ass, right? But he has 16 Gwen games, 14 GP, 10 Camille, 10 Akali, 9 Camille, 5 Jays, 5 Fiora. So he's a carry player, right?
Yes.
And that's nothing of that this season. So you had a
player. They played it, they lost, and then they gave up. It was like one Jax game. It was one Jax game where he was mega ahead. It was like a Fiora game where he did nothing, and then they went away with it. They went away from it with just like 3 games. Yeah.
And especially on the carry top part, is like a player like this needs confidence, and you can't build confidence if you don't trust him to do it, right? Yes. And especially now, if you go away, as Storm said, after one loss, there's no way he comes back from that. Because on stage, he will know, as soon as I fuck up, I go back to playing fucking Ornn or whatever. right? So it's just weird. I don't know what happened there. Could also be, though, to be fair, that a transition between orgs is always hard. So we don't know backstage, like behind the scenes, what happens with the whole staff, who's helping out. Is the management still as attached as before, right? All the stuff can make a team worse for sure.
I want to throw one last detail in there because we never do this. Like the joke about Freddy122 is when the team was probably like underrated, no one mentioned him or gave him credit. But then when they do badly, no one mentions him either. He's that kid. It's funny, he's actually British because this is what it's like in British culture, right? There's a famous thing in class in school, which is if you sort of like don't do your homework and you don't really want to like have the teacher pick on you sit at the back, you just shut the fuck up. You sit like this. You sit like they did against fucking whatever Hillside. I don't know, the Mad Lions. You sit like G2 in 2019 against the Mad Lions stuff. You just sit down. You don't make any sound. And you just hope no one scores. Hey, you at the back, come to the front. You just do that, right? But the problem I have with this is, right, he's now had these players. Think about this. You had Finn, who's like a sort of like coin flip carry player on his right picks and maybe not that good at weak. Wait, let's be real. He's not that good at weak side and tanks. Then in the middle, you had Odoam there. Probably one of the best European weak side player ever, fucking top lane. Although shout out Soaz, he should deserve a mention. Yeah, but Wonder used to even do it with carries though. Like I thought he had his own unique style. You know, he wasn't just a tank. You know, like,
yeah. True,
and then now he's got Shizgenda. So he's had two players, by the way, who could be played through. And in other teams like in Astralis, they will try and play through Finn all the time. And I just think if you look at the teams, this is just Freddy122's vision of the game. I think he just likes scaling. He likes just like safer fucking just farm up, just have the mid in the ADC, get the work done. And I think he doesn't believe in like carry top mentality. Let's be real. In the West, we don't do it much. It's not the LPL. Because the thing is, when I look at it, it was even the same with Odoam there. Odoam there would have like one good game on like a Jace or a Renekton. And then they'd just be like, if it goes bad next game, look, nah, you're off that. Like, you're not never going back to that again. Like, I just get the sense like the coaching staff maybe just doesn't see top lane the same way because they've had the players to potentially hard push that angle and it doesn't seem like they want to. It seems like they have they're another coaching staff where I feel like their vision of the game is very similar no matter what the players are, you know. Just speculation.
Well, but also, just put about 2 cents, they have to bite off the players because Rogue, now Koi, for the longest time was the only team in entire Europe, my teams included, that actually played scrims well.
Everyone used to say it was the favorite team to play against.
And for that, you need the players who also believe in that vision, right? So it could have been a thing that Freddy imposes on them. It could be that the team naturally agrees to it. That's why they're so good at it. So it's hard to say who, like the chicken or the egg, right? Which was first.
Yes.
But if the coach wants to play this way and the players, it's also really hard to break out of it, right? Because the same reason as with Shigenda, imagine they go to like the scrims this week, guys are playing LeBlanc, Lee, we're gonna like play, I mean, of course, not the champions, right? But play early game, they lose one game. You know what? We tried, guys. We tried. Let's go back to scaling.
Yes.
That's just how it's gonna go.
And by the way, I definitely agreed with the point you said there. If you are someone whose whole game is like, I'm a carry top, it can't be like you're saying, where it's like, this reminds me of, this happens to people in sports where you can be subbed in and out. Like, you know, it's like in football, right? If I'm like, I'll give you a perfect example, GrabbZ. Say I'm some like young up and coming, like really sick attacking winger, right? And then I have a couple of times I fuck up and lose the ball. And I know the second I do that, you're pulling me out the game and I get replaced by like, you know, just a whole midfield. I'm never going to have the confidence to do it. Like, I'm just going to I'm not even going to play my style anymore because now I'm going to try and stay in the team, aren't I?
Yeah, as an example, because I mean, football, right, is also my thing. Guardiola, like probably the tactical best coach in the world right now, says openly that he structures the build-up, the beginning of the attack phase. Towards the last third, the players can do what they want, basically. Like he puts them where he wants them, but they have freedom to express themselves, which is really important. It's the same in League of Legends. Like, of course, you can't be like brain dead all the time. But as a coach, you have to like reinforce them, saying, you know what, you went for the idea, it didn't work out this time, but the idea was good. You know, do it again. So you need that. So if you try to play carries and you get replaced instantly, or like you get swapped back to like now duty, then there's no way of improving either.
Yeah. Right. What about this then? There are a couple of teams we can knock off. They're not going to be in the next stage really quickly. I don't feel like we need... Maybe GrabbZ has an angle on XL, but aside from that, I feel like XL is Astralis. We just knock out the park quick, Dom. Because, like, let's be real, there's not that much update to give. So, give me your take, GrabbZ. You were saying something before we started the show when I was just waiting for Dom to come back. Basically, you had the similar perspective to Dom, actually, in the offseason, which is the problem is just stylistically, the team's a bit of a mess. Like, even before we knew the players would play bad now, all these... You could just... to you, it didn't even make sense as a roster.
I just think that individually they're all good players. I think like Xerxes gets flamed too much. I think he's playing fine, but there's no player who's willing to go forward and create, as we talked about earlier, space in the draft or in the game, right? You have 5 players who are like willing to play safe and scale up, which means basically you start pressure-wise on 0-0-0, and the enemy team has a strength that they play through. So you're always uphill, basically, on the game. I remember like drafts where Zerxter was playing Elise, I think, the one game, and he had 3 losing lanes and just tried to invade just to find a jungler and make him useless. But this is like a very, very like filter to walk on. And then Zerxter gets flamed because it doesn't work, right? While he has 3 losing lanes to try to scale up. And then also
what type of team should he be in to shine, do you think? What style of a team? Is there a team in the league you'd put him in now and he'd be good?
I mean, basically, it sounds simple, right? But you just actually in league need one lane at least who tries to win early. That's all you need, because you can make it consistent in scrims. You can work towards it. You can make it your weapon basically in the early, and the others can scale. Like, of course, you can say in best of 5s to get predictable, but it's still possible. And I think like you have 5 good players who are naturally very quiet in game, from what I heard. I can't confirm 100%, but I heard that all 5 of them are not the ones who like a Jankos or Perks who will talk through the early game. And then you have 5 players who want to scale. So you have a mute early game with no pressure on the map. And then if you get to a team fight, as we saw like the last game against Vitality, where they somehow got to the stages, they look quite competent. Like they know how to behave in fights, right? To a certain degree. But just getting to that part is really hard. So I think just someone needs to take the reins and say, you know what, it's not comfortable for me, but I need to like be the one to try to win the early game at least. Because if you think back to like Vifio and Misfits, right? Misfits in general was just a team that relied on teams being too bad to finish.
Yep. So
they played a double scaling mid bot. And Vifio's from there, like he's a good scaler, but he doesn't win lanes necessarily. Patrick, I mean, I guess Mickey was the part that tried to win the lanes, or Targa must have just having a bad year. I don't know. And Odam, as you said, is a good big side player, right? So where do you go through? It has to be Patrick or Vifio. One of those two has to like step it up or try to be a different player a bit.
I mean, I think the main thing that I see when I look at this team is that they are just delusional. Like they have no idea who they are as players. Like, because I think this is all obvious from the outside. They have 5 mute players who like to scale up. Okay, so then why are we playing Draven Nautilus? Isn't that just like the worst possible combo that you could play?
And they're playing Yasuo. They have some bad picks.
They're playing like Patrick's playing Yasuo. Then the next game. I mean, this is I guess after they're like. I mean, the Yasuo game. I don't think they were they technically eliminated yet on the Yasuo game? I don't think they were technically eliminated yet. They could have got to 3 wins. Okay. So they're not even technically eliminated on that. And then the last game, obviously they're technically eliminated. They play like this pike lane. Wait, if you guys are the scaling team and that's the strength of your team, and everyone knows it, bro. It's no fucking secret that this team is going to be like a pretty inactive early game team. They're going to be pretty quiet. If that's your team, then why are you trying to be somebody you're not? I hate seeing this level of delusion. Like, I don't know who's giving them the ability to pick like this on stage, or who's feeding into these thoughts. But like, if you're the coach, you have to figure out what the strength is of your team and play towards that and pick towards it. And it feels like they just had no idea who they were the entire split. They're like, oh, I thought we were all good players. Why are we losing? It's like they don't even believe what the narratives are about themselves. They just think that there's somebody else. But realistically, anyone could see this coming, that they were going to be a relatively slow team. They're going to be inactive. That might be still good enough to do well, right? Like they could have done well with that style, but it wasn't going to be G2. It wasn't going to be them coming out and just stomping people and just shitting down their throat. Like they were going to actually have to grind it out. They're going to have to play these long grinded out games and use the fact that they have good team fighting later on. They know how to structure team fights. They understand how to peel well. That was going to have to be the strength that came through. And it just didn't seem like they were able to buy into that style, or they even believed that was what their strengths were.
Yeah, and also just to help that narrative, that thought process behind with stats, right? Vifio played a different champ every game. Targa must played 8 different champions. Yep. Which is really good if you're winning a team, because it's diversity. But if you're losing a team, that just means that you have no clear idea how the approach should be in the game as a team. That's just all it says, basically. So especially then, a player like Vifio will say, okay, we lost, I want to try something else. So there needs to be a voice in the team, a player or coaching staff or management, whoever, to like give a direction to go to, right?
Yes.
And I think that was missing the split.
Exactly. This guy just fucking gives up on champions quicker than fucking Nice. Whatever, just thought I'd draw that. See if anyone knew the reference. Just trying to be like, I knew that reference. Thorin is down with the kids. Like, so here's the thing though. I'll say,
I like 70 years old, bro. I don't know if you're down with the kids. If you're
mate, he looks like a fucking grape that was left out in the sun. He's fucking with it.
Okay, jeez. So, I wasn't gonna go that.
Whatever.
Mate,
he probably needs the 350 for fucking skin cream.
Jesus, man. Why
he needs some moisture. He needs some fucking moisture. He's a very salty individual as well. So, you know, the balance of the salt, the osmo, whatever. You get the point. Right. So I can go all day.
GrabbZ, don't say anything. Just let it
exactly. Just let me cook. Let me cook. Let me cook. Although the problem is he's already cooked. He's probably been in the fucking California sun. He's like one of those raisins back in the day that used to be on commercials and that. That's a bad reference. Whatever. He knows though. He was about 45 at the time. Right. Here's the thing, just because you were really good at Pong doesn't mean you're going to be good at League of Legends Nice. Like, it's not worth the $350. That might be going into Social Security, though, to be fair. So,
who let Thorin
all right. Okay, we're calm. Everyone back to League of Legends.
Get that out, just had to personally roast.
Whatever.
Right.
Nice was never an option. You have to understand, right? So here's the thing, like all the good coaches, right? What I'm going to say about XL is this, though. I totally agree with the point GrabbZ said, because here's what sucks so much, in my opinion. One, let's all just calm down about that Vitality game. One, the game lasted forever. That's longer than episodes of Netflix shows, mate. Then two, Vitality already had locked up the league, basically, and XL was out. So I'm sorry, if you know anything about competition, that is the least meaningful result ever. Because the joke is, XL, actually, some of them are probably playing for their job, potentially, and Vitality doesn't give a flying fuck and still could have won the game. And then the last thing is, I thought the Targ Abbas point was a very key thing, because I've been reaching out to people. I said I would do this when XL went to shit at the beginning. Coaches and people who've played with them, to try and find out, like, what do people actually like these guys and know their strengths? What do they think? And here's what I was told about Targ Abbas. They said, look, he did have some of these issues in lane in past teams, and sometimes the team would be built around. But they said half of his problem is that right now he desperately needs it to go back into like the fucking Rakan, the Pike. That needs to be the meta, and then he might have a chance, right? Well, as you said, GrabbZ, he only played the Pike at the end, right? As you said, I'll read it out. Here's the champions he played this split. He played Jhin, Nami, Karma, Yuumi, Nami, Nautilus, Braum, Senna, and then lastly the Pike. So the only double up, by the way, was he played 2 games of Nami, which, by the way, those were abomination as well. So, like, mate, this guy it looks like he's just lost completely. Like you said, Dom, his identity as a player. Because in that scenario, by the way, here's what you do. Think about what GrabbZ said about players earlier when if you get like halfway into the split and it's not working, you're still just reaching for the next champion and it's just not working. At that point in time, it might even be worth just saying, fuck the meta. Like, let's just force a Pike pick. Let's just make one happen if that's all that we can make it. Especially if, like you say, the main thing is they never get anything going early. Like, I might have just said, fuck it, Band-Aid time. Let's just try something crazy. They tried it when they were out already. Like, that's just a bit whack to me. Because that implies they still, either they believed or they didn't care. They just kept cycling champions. That's a bit whack to me. I do have hopes if maybe he can come back in a different meta, but this was a really bad fucking showing from him, this 3-week period or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, no one comes out of this even looking like, so, I mean, they should, it was so bad that a lot of them are going to be like worried about their job security. I mean, this was things, it would be crazy to imagine like Odo or Vedia or like any of these players out of the LEC. But when you have a performance like this, I mean, you start being worried about like, are they going to still maintain, or like, are they going to play split in ERL, or what's actually going to happen, especially when the confidence drops like this? I mean, everyone just looked pretty much as bad as you could imagine them looking.
Yes. Also, one thing to note here, because I mean, of course, we have to go to each player individually, right? But what fans especially forget is that in a team, if you're losing, and you know at some point, and it will also be important for Fnatic later on, that if you know your teammates cannot carry you physically, you will make mistakes in any phase. I know that although I'm not good at solo killed a lot, he has a KD of 1.3, but I think he was the best performing player of XL. He was. Because he tried to make things happen, right?
Yep.
He went out and he tried and he said, okay, my team can't carry me for whatever reason. Not because they're bad, but maybe, I don't know, mood is bad, right? So let me be the person to try to make a difference. He tried, it didn't work out, but that you can, like, in theory, say for every player, right?
Yes.
So it's really hard to judge in a losing team what to do.
Yes.
So it's not like we're not trying to sit here and say they should just do this. It's so easy, right? It is hard to find something in that regard, but it just shows that they had no actual game plan coming in. I also know for a fact that, again, this is important, in the background, stuff wasn't ready, for example, right? The office and stuff. The atmosphere is not great either. So if you come into a team where it seems like the transition got unfinished, like from an old office to a new one, and then you start losing, like you feel uncomfortable going to practice. In practice, you lose all the time. You get beaten down 0-5 and you go home. You know, then this happens on stage.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.